Look at it. Yes. Attack it. No. Nature has provided animals and plants with many weapons to defend themselves with. One of the most potent of them is based on chemistry, poison. Deadly threat or medicinal herb? The fine line between good and evil is a hair's breadth. A lack of caution can very quickly lead to death. The Vienna Woods are referred to as the Green Lung. This unique nature preserve in the immediate vicinity of a major city. Contained in an area 3 times larger than Vienna itself, a diverse landscape unfolds here, which has been named by UNESCO as a biosphere park. It is home to animals and humans, a recreational area, cultural space and nature preserve, an area with many facets and a unique beauty throughout the year. However, behind the enchantment of nature are deadly dangers, of which most visitors to the Vienna Woods are not aware, although they only lie at the edge of the path. The winter rose, for example, which is one of the first flowers to break through the covering of snow, is an ancient medicinal and poisonous plant. 3 Tropfen maken rood, 10 Tropfen maken tot, 3 drops red, 10 drops dead, according to an old herbarium. They come out when the sun melts, the snow and the ground is freed from ice, the little poisoners of the Vienna Woods. One of the most well-known are the lovely snowdrops. Humans appreciate it as a friendly herald of spring, but only a few know that the beloved plant contains poisonous alkaloids, substances that have a strong effect on the organism. When, for example, children put the plant into their mouth, vomiting and diarrhea are the result, as well as often circulatory disorders. This is why it is important for walkers and hikers to understand that nature is no harmless terrain. The wood anemone blossoms in March and April. Known as mandrake, this species of anemone contains poisonous substances that irritate the skin upon contact. Those who eat this plant suffer from bloody vomiting and diarrhea and respiratory problems caused by damage to the mucous membranes. 10 of these flowers are enough to kill a human being. An especially conspicuous herald of spring is the crocus, which blooms in the meadows in brilliant violet, white or yellow. The species of iris is only slightly poisonous to humans, but they should still be kept out of the hands of small children. The entire animal kingdom is occupied with procreation in the spring. The common toads have woken up from their hibernation and wandered to the closest pond. The smaller males cling to the larger females and let themselves be carried to the spawning area. The clinging reflex of the males is so pronounced that even those who are clung to that can't get away quickly enough. This is how it can accidentally happen that fish, frogs or other males are seduced. Toads carry secretions in their skin to protect them from enemies. Those who touch a toad absorb poisons having an effect on their heart. They don't kill, but they lower the pulse rate. Amphibians are often poisonous. The skin of the alpine newt contains tetrodotoxin, a paralyzing neurotoxin. However, the concentration here is so low that it is not dangerous to humans, but to small animals like martens that would otherwise eat it. The crested newt also has coetaneous glands that secrete poison when touched. Enemies suffer from cramps and respiratory paralysis. Skin contact can become dangerous to humans when the poison finds its way into open wounds. In this case, a physician should be consulted immediately. Plants also use their poisons to avoid being eaten. In the case of the Daphne, for example, almost everything is poisonous. Particularly contact with the seeds and berries can be deadly. The pollen triggers allergies. The primrose, a popular potted plant, carries a secretion in its little hairs that irritates the skin upon contact. Snakes are feared because of their poisonous fangs. The meadow adder is extinct in Austria. 50 years ago, it could still be found everywhere in the eastern parts of the country and in the Vienna woods. However, the loss of many wet meadows has robbed it of its habitat. Those who see a snake in the Vienna woods often think it is a poisonous European adder. However, this snake prefers the climate in the mountains. In the Vienna woods, there are only non-poisonous smooth snakes, which are so small and well camouflaged that hikers hardly ever encounter them. The meter-long Aesculapian snake is a fearful sight due to its size, but it is also harmless. The rare meadow adder is only still found beyond the Hungarian border to the east of Lake Neusiedl in the National Park Further Tor. It has a zigzag pattern on its back and conspicuously protruding scales. It primarily feeds on grasshoppers and crickets. The meadow adder is strictly protected, and biologists hope that this rare reptile will also multiply and return to the Vienna woods. The grape hyacinth or muscari loves warm locations and dry grasslands. Its berry-like inflorescence lure children to eat it again and again. The poisonous saponines cause diarrhea. The marsh marigold is also especially popular with children because of its friendly appearance. However, it contains poisons that result in skin irritation upon contact. One used to think it would keep away witches when collected on Walpurgis night. The blossom buds were also preserved like capers in vinegar and eaten. However, an overdose induces vomiting. Lungwort, a completely harmless plant, grows not far from the stream. Its ingredients soothe dry coughs and respiratory infections. However, with many plants, there is only a fine line between a healing effect and toxicity. Or there is a danger of confusing them. These tasty morels, which already grow in the meadows in the spring, are often confused with an extremely poisonous doppelganger. The Gyromitra esculenta, or false morel. It is distinguished from the edible morel by the brain-like grooves on the cap. Those who eat the false morel may die. Even inhaling the cooking vapors results in paralysis. Mushroom gatherers are repeatedly the victims of such confusion. Another mistake can also have deadly consequences when one is tempted to pick wild garlic in the spring. At first glance, this culinary herb has an appearance extremely similar to that of lily of the valley. Only a closer look can save collectors from a fatal mistake. The leaves may have a very similar appearance, but in the case of the lily of the valley, they grow in pairs and envelop the stem of the plant. While with wild garlic leaves, each are found on their own stem. It is even easier to differentiate the flowers. In the case of wild garlic, a so-called collective bloom protected by the leaf growing upward. Wild garlic also exudes a strong fragrance similar to garlic, which the lily of the valley does not have. Lily of the valley grows somewhat later than the first wild garlic. Its blooms look entirely different. These are hanging white umbels on a stem. The danger of confusing them is thus especially great when the plants have not yet blossomed. Only careful attention helps because both grow in similar locations. Here is the wild garlic. There, the poisonous lily of the valley. It is already quite warm in the Vienna woods in May. At this time, one can come across blooming irises here. The flower is not indigenous but has instead found its way here from gardens. It likes to settle at the edges of streams. Leaves and stems contain active ingredients that cause vomiting and diarrhea. Hares and rabbits, but also horses, cows and sheep become ill when they eat this flower. In humans, its consumption causes colic and other digestion problems. An emetic used to be created from the roots, but also aromatic violet perfume. All lilies are poisonous, including this yellow flag. Not least for this reason are they a symbol for death and resurrection. The true violet, on the other hand, which opens its delicate flowers in the spring, is a medicinal and culinary herb. In France, violets are still candied or processed into liquor. They decorate salads or provide flavor to a parfait. As a medicinal plant, violet extracts are administered for bronchial disorders. Because insects are so small, they really have to be able to defend themselves. Bees, for example, have a strong protein poison. Only 1/10 of a milligram of toxin is contained in a sting, but the sting is extremely painful and swells up quickly. Humans allergic to bee poison can lapse into a threatening state of shock. In the case of humans who do not react sensitively, bee poison can have a healing effect when used in the correct dosage, as a salve for arthritis and chronic pain. The most poisonous plants have a direct effect on the heart and the circulatory system. The foxglove, for example. Its toxins trigger profuse sweating and circulatory disorders, extending to heart failure. 2 leaves of this beautiful plant are enough to kill a human being. In weak dosages, on the other hand, known as digitalis, foxglove extracts assist the function of the heart. The Vienna woods are famous for their expansive deciduous forests. The old oaks are the habitat of the stag beetle, because it lives from vegetable juices, especially the sap of the oak. The pincers are an impressive weapon in a struggle with rivals. Ground beetles have to find other methods of defending themselves. Because they are right at the bottom of the food chain, evolution furnished them with poisons. Some of them release a spray when attacked. Others make themselves unpalatable. They use their poison as a defensive deterrent. They need no chemical assistance to catch another insect or devour a fat caterpillar. The oil beetle feeds on leaves. It has an especially sophisticated defense system. Its blood contains an oily substance, which it can secrete from its leg joints when threatened. In this way, it can defend itself against, for example, ants and ground beetles. However, there is no perfect defense in nature. The hedgehog and many birds are immune to this poison and can nonetheless eat the oil beetle. Even 0.003 of a gram of its poison, cantharidin, injected into the bloodstream would be enough to kill a human being. In the early summer, the dry meadowlands in the Vienna woods are a blossoming paradise. A rare ground squirrel finds a home here. On the other hand, there are far too many of this animal. Even the fine hairs of this caterpillar cause painful rashes, irritated eyes, and respiratory complaints in humans. The oak processionary moth, whose larvae go searching for food in single file, is multiplying massively, which is probably related to the climate. Even when the larvae pupates, its hairy shell, and thus the nettle poison, can remain in the environment for years. The most poisonous of the killers camouflage themselves as harmless forms. They resemble tasty mushrooms, like the St. George's mushroom, which grows in meadows or in the deciduous forest. Its gills are white. Its poisonous doppelganger, the fiber cap, has brownish gills, but otherwise has a very similar appearance to the St. George's mushroom. The fly agaric poison muscarine is found beneath the reddish cap. Even 50 grams of the mushroom can be deadly. "200 times the dosage of a fly agaric can be found in a single deadly fire cap. "50 grams, that's not much. Two or 3 grams can be a matter of life and death. One of the most dangerous European toadstools there is, the fool's webcap, is found in the hills of the Vienna woods. Its poison is especially treacherous because symptoms only appear 3 days later, making rescue almost impossible. The dangerous aurelinine has then already destroyed the kidneys. This is why this mushroom is also called the assassin. This mushroom has already cost many people their lives and is also spreading in Austria due to climate warming. There are only a few areas left in Europe with such expansive deciduous forests and clean bodies of water. That's why the fire salamander also lives in the Vienna woods. The young animals leave the water in the summer to hunt on land. They themselves have few enemies because their skin secretes poisonous alkaloids. The conspicuous pattern signalizes, "Warning, don't eat me." For humans, the secretion only results in burning skin. However, small children can feel ill after contact with the cheerfully colorful animals or experience respiratory problems. Young dogs that want to play with the amphibian are the most frequent victims. The yellow-bellied toad only shows its poisonous side at second glance. the yellow-black underbelly warns its enemies. It secretes a substance that irritates the mucous membrane when threatened. It is not especially dangerous to humans. The sign language works. For example, when the toad meets a water snake, it hollows its back so that the snake recognizes its markings. It looks a little bit like yoga. The snake in any case recognizes the color signal and decides to make a detour around the toad. Indians make poison for arrows from frogs in the rainforest. However, the frogs in the Vienna woods are also poisonous, for example, the Pelophylax, although less so than toads. The common tree frog also has glands in its skin, but this hardly causes a reaction in humans. Despite its defensive substances, it has no warning coloring, but instead camouflage. This is because it lives in the reed thickets or in the green brush. Spiders are also, of course, among the life forms that use poison. That's why those walking through a meadow like this should be wearing good shoes and long trousers. The yellow sac spider is probably the only spider in Europe with a bite that has truly unpleasant consequences for humans. Although its body is only 1.5 centimeters in size, its poison really packs a punch. It can cause shivering and very severe circulatory problems. This is why a physician should absolutely be consulted when bitten. In contrast to other spiders, this one has especially long chelicerae, making it able to bite through human skin. The yellow sac spider can become aggressive in August when defending its cocooned eggs. The yellow sac spider is multiplying increasingly in Austria. It has only not yet been sighted in Vorarlberg. At the height of summer, an impenetrable ceiling of leaves covers large parts of the Vienna woods. Mediterranean temperatures prevail beneath this ceiling, in which some plants thrive particularly well. The poisonous berries of the Daphne can be seen from afar and are seductive. The aconite, one of the most poisonous plants there is, grows on the edge of a slope. The danger of the bright blue flower is known to the whole world. Spectacular murders have been carried out with it over the centuries. Homeopathy uses it as a medicinal substance. There is an especially large number of poisonous mushrooms, which is why gatherers need to really know what they're doing or go to a mushroom advice center with their find. The Coprinellus micaceus is considered to be edible, but it contains an amino acid that results in poisoning in connection with even the smallest amount of alcohol. This is why it is not recommended. In the case of the panther cap, even a single bite results in fatal poisoning. The characteristic markings on its surface disappear following strong rainfall. It can then be easily mistaken. Fly agaric is much clearer. Here it is growing in a so-called fairy ring. This occurs when a subterranean fungal network spreads equally in all directions. This mushroom with the brilliant red cap and the white spots used to be ascribed magical powers. Its poison is rarely fatal, but it damages the liver and has an effect like drugs. Siberian shamans still today use the fly agaric as an intoxicant for magical ceremonies. In the Middle Ages, it was seen as a witch mushroom in Austria. The secret forest and the dark powers. Myth-enshrouded mandrake is the most famous of all magical plants. It lights in the dark. It was believed in the Middle Ages and defended itself and cried out when one tried to dig it up. Only people with very special talents could master this plant, of which many claimed that the devil lived in it. Women versed in herbal lore, as there have also always been in the Vienna woods, were viewed as witches. They could handle poisonous plants like the angel's trumpet, henbane or wolfsbane. Life and death was often held in the hands of these women who created herbal medicine, but also poisons at a time at which there were no doctors, but plenty of potential murderers. Alchemy was the predecessor of modern pharmaceuticals, the attempt to draw out the secrets of nature. Magical beliefs were woven together with targeted experiments. In the process, for example, attempts were made to find the boundaries between salubrious and dangerous. The dosage makes the poison. Even the physicians of antiquity knew this. When mixed under the full moon, a recipe was bestowed with special power. The witches also knew which ingredients would transform their brew into a deadly elixir, a toad's leg, for example. Successions to the throne and inheritance disputes were not seldom decided in this way, by poison. The flask containing the deadly elixir was sealed airtight with a stopper of beeswax. Inheritance powder is what one called such herbal mixtures with which the nobility attempted to assert claims to titles or feudal tenures. Fear of poisoned food was ubiquitous in the Middle Ages. At the court, there were food tasters and lockable bowls. But when one's own wife became a poisoner, the best precautionary measures were no longer of any help. One of the most prominent poisoners can still be found in the Vienna woods today, the most poisonous mushroom in Europe. It appears rather inconspicuous and not always similar at all, meaning that it can be confused with edible mushrooms. The death cap. Even today, there are still cases in which people are not only accidentally, but even intentionally killed with its poison. The tuberous sheath at the stem end is the surest way to tell that one should avoid this mushroom. This is because the color and the shape of the death cap change with age. Larger specimens of the death cap can be confused in terms of color with the young, greasy green brittle gill, which is a special favorite among gatherers. The dangerous toxins of the mushroom destroy the liver and the gallbladder, central organs of the digestive system. Some people believe that edible mushrooms can be recognized in that they are also eaten by snails. That is wrong. The snail is especially fond of the most poisonous of all poisonous mushrooms, the death cap, and feels absolutely no ill effects. Pure herbivores appear to be able to tolerate more dangerous toxins than humans. Rabbits, for example, eat poisonous mushrooms. Humans, however, whether carnivores or vegetarians, can die from only 30 grams. Children from only half this dosage. The poison of the death cap is found in all parts of the mushroom and is extremely difficult to destroy. Even boiling doesn't dissolve it out of the mushroom. Even when dried or frozen, the mushroom loses none of its deadliness. One famous victim of poisoning is the Habsburg Emperor Charles VI. His violent death triggered a global war in the 18th century. If a death cap really does find its way into food, for example because it has been mistaken for a field mushroom, everyone who has eaten it is in extreme danger. 90% of serious poisoning incidents in Austria can be traced back to a death cap. The first symptoms, nausea, colic and vomiting, first show themselves after 8 to 10 hours, which makes treatment more difficult. A century ago, almost every death cap poisoning ended fatally. Intensive medicine has reduced this rate to 10 to 15%. Damage to the liver is treated with extract of blessed milk thistle. Nonetheless, people die again and again from the death cap. Robbers. One can imagine finding them in the forest. But pirates? They are here in the Vienna woods, far away from any ocean. But the pirates of the Vienna woods still need water, especially streams and ponds. And here, Pirata piraticus, the German name equivalent to pirate spider, is derived from the scientific name, in English, wolf spiders. Their salicerae conceal a powerful poison with which they paralyze their prey. They have their German equivalent name of pirate spiders because, while they live at the water's edge, they primarily hunt on the water. There they carry off animals that live on the surface of the water or insects that have fallen in. Fine hairs on their legs allow the small animals to run on the water. They sense every vibration and are, in this way, aware of their prey. Thousands of such wolf spiders live in swimming ponds. However, their salicerae cannot penetrate human skin. This is not the case for the 3 times larger and poisonous diving bell spider. Its bite can be very painful and cause fever. However, the symptoms don't last long. The diving bell spider lives entirely in the water. It captures air from the surface with its abdomen and then carries this with it as a bubble into the depths. It is very reclusive and avoids human disturbances. The danger of being bitten by one is therefore not especially great. Fog rises in the valleys of the Vienna woods in late summer. It also rains more often. The moisture smooths the path for a new generation of poisoners. Many mushrooms now sprout from the forest floor. The devil's bolete is the poisonous brother of the popular porcini mushroom and has an appearance which makes it very easy to confuse the two at first glance. Luckily, it is not highly poisonous. Eating it results in vomiting and diarrhea, but it is not destructive to inner organs. It can be identified by its reddish stem. The base of a porcini mushroom is white or greenish-brown. Autumn is gradually approaching, but the climate is changing in the Vienna woods too. The warm periods throughout the year are lengthening. Rainfall is increasing in intensity. This is also changing the flora and fauna. What looks like a normal mosquito could in fact also be an Anopheles mosquito. It is not poisonous itself. However, when sucking blood, it can transmit single-cell organisms with its saliva, which is where the feared tropical disease malaria has its origin. Malaria has actually been extinct in Europe for the last 50 years. The most recent cases near Vienna were registered in the 1940s. The warm eastern part of Austria was, at that time, settled by Anopheles mosquitoes extending up into the Weinviertel, the wine quarter. The mosquito single-cell organisms multiply by way of the red blood corpuscles, which results in recurring and intense bouts of fever and shivering. What once seemed to be history could become reality again. As a consequence of climate change and long-distance tourism, Anopheles mosquitoes are returning to Austria in individual cases. Once they have discovered a suitable habitat, they multiply at an unbelievable speed. A single female mosquito can lay millions of billions of eggs. The larvae live in the water and slough several times. Hardly have they hatched, the mosquitoes are already on the lookout for a blood sacrifice. Because the insects and their pathogens are becoming increasingly tolerant against poisons and medicines, they present a real threat also to the Vienna woods. In themselves, non-poisonous animals, but which bite or sting, they can always spread dangerous diseases in this way, and they are lurking everywhere. Ticks are unpleasant parasites of humans and animals. The 8-legged creatures hide under leaves and wait for their victims. Then they bite down tightly with their salicerae and suck up the blood through a sting until they nearly burst. They are sensitive to heat and detect sweat, urine and carbon dioxide with a special chemoreceptor. This is how they find their prey. This special ornate cow tick is spreading throughout eastern Austria, probably from Hungary and the Czech Republic. Anyone underway in nature here must expect to be bitten by a tick. The ticks are swept from the blades of grass and then climb up their victims, looking for a vulnerable spot. A macro shot shows the salicerae right up close. A red ring around the bite area indicates a tick infection with Borrelia, which are bacteria that cause infections and joint pain. This map shows the areas in Austria where the risk is great of being bitten by a tick infected with ESME. This virus triggers meningitis. However, one can inoculate oneself against it. Only antibiotics can help against borreliosis. The hills of the Vienna woods stand out clearly against the foothills of the Alps. The light becomes autumnal. The fruit in the meadows of scattered fruit trees in the valleys has ripened and is already falling from the trees. Those who aren't careful can very easily be bitten or stung by an insect now, by hornets, bees or wasps. The scent of the overripe fruit draws them from far off. The bees are the friendliest of the three. They only sting when they feel themselves to be in extreme danger. Wasps, on the other hand, can be very intrusive when they are interested in food. When they sting, this releases a scent which attracts more wasps and makes them aggressive. Unlike bees, they don't lose their sting and can therefore sting repeatedly. Some people also have an allergic reaction to wasp poison. Few know that, besides snakes, spiders and insects, there is also a mammal that kills its victims with poison. It lives in the Vienna woods. The shrew looks like a rodent at first glance, but it is in fact an insectivore and a real predator. Here it has caught a cricket and is taking it apart with its sharp teeth. It has a poisoned gland in its lower jaw with which it can also kill larger animals like voles or frogs. It is the only mammal in these climes that uses poison. Shrews have poor vision. They prefer to use their noses to orient themselves. They avoid humans. Only those who try to catch them might have to expect a painful poisonous bite. It isn't dangerous. The autumn crocus is so poisonous that even mere contact with it can result in problems of swallowing, diarrhea or respiratory problems. However, most incidents of poisoning don't take place in autumn due to the flowers, but instead in spring due to the leaves, which can be confused with those of wild garlic. One will never see leaves and blooms together on one plant. The autumn crocus is also sometimes mistaken for the crocus. It is also poisonous to many animals. Only those nursing react less strongly. But even this milk has caused cases of poisoning. Shortly before winter, the Vienna woods present themselves once more in all its colourful glory. The meadows, bushes and trees are full of berries, nuts and seeds, a feast for many animals, who can now fatten themselves up once again for a long, hard winter. Tollkirsche, or mad cherries, known as deadly nightshade in English, got its German name because, even in small doses, it causes hallucinations and alters consciousness. It has a long tradition as a magical plant, and it is claimed that it made witches able to fly. Its berries can cause nerve damage and fatal respiratory paralysis. Experiments are thus highly inadvisable. The European roan attracts many birds with its red berries. The berries may not be poisonous to humans, but they are bad for the stomach. However, they can be eaten cooked. Red isn't always simply red. However, caution is always advisable when plants are especially colourful. That applies, for example, to the spindle, which is also found in gardens as a decorative plant due to its beauty. It is also called the Pfaffenkappel, parson's cap in German, because of its brilliant orange fruits. The entire plant is highly poisonous, but it is the seeds that contain the highest dosage of alkaloids. Children should, in any case, be kept away from such shrubs. In nature, beauty is no guarantee of harmlessness. On the contrary, the poison emergency centers experience again and again what people stick into their mouths or swallow just to try it out. However, such experiments are extremely inadvisable. Nature demands respect and can protect itself against destruction with powerful poisons.